one new head teacher.
It's scary, it's lonely sometimes. Being a head's lonely because you've got your deputies. My team's fantastic, but bottom line is the ultimate responsibility is yours.
And an experienced educational coach.
Coaching isn't about giving answers, it's about helping other people understand the answers that are already within them.
Over the next few weeks, Coach Mark Whitby will work with head teacher Vic Goddard on his leadership skills. Through their work, we'll get a useful insight into how to develop a long-term vision for a school and see what it actually means to distribute leadership. And there's further useful tips on working on your school development plan at the end of the programme. As a new head teacher, having a long-term vision for your school is something you'll need to be clear on. We've come to Passmore School and Technology College in Harlow, where Vic has been head teacher for just 4 terms.
It's the best job in the world. I love my job. I would struggle to give it up if I won the lottery. It's every day's different, every day's a challenge, but every day's a good day.
We'll see him deciding on his goals for the next 3 years, which will help him on his way to writing his school development plan.
If I don't get the school development plan right, it's going to end up being a waste of time and money and resources for people. We need to look beyond what we're doing today and strategically make sure the school's moving in the right direction.
Educational coach Mark Whitby will help Vic to define his dreams for the future of his school. He's been a head teacher for more than 10 years and currently works as a consultant head teacher in 2 schools in Brighton.
The biggest impact I have in supporting head teachers is often getting them to understand what they know already. So that whole process of talking it through, finding that solution, gives a sense of lift and relief to somebody when they've been maybe stuck in a rut over a particular issue.
Morning, Mark.
I think one of the key aspects for me about being a good leader is the notion of vision. Being able to project not just a few weeks ahead, but years maybe ahead in terms of where you see an organisation going.
The school's in a good place. I certainly hope by the end of the day that Mark's given me the impetus, if nothing else, and some guidance on how to break down the challenge, which is quite a big challenge.
Being clear on your leadership style, according to Mark, will help you visualise how you can take your school forward in the future. He sets Vic a task to get him thinking about how he wants to be perceived as a head teacher.
Imagine you're at your own funeral and can overhear conversations from former pupils and colleagues. What comments would give you the greatest satisfaction?
He was there for us.
Right.
I guess would be the first one, and wanted us to be the best we can. Because I think the balance between support and challenge is the balance that I try to strike every day.
There for me, or there for us. Define that for me a little bit in terms of more concrete terms. What does that mean to you?
It would be that he knew what we could achieve, you know, knowing what they can achieve and pushing us to achieve that. That's being supportive of somebody, you know, knowing that what they're capable of. But if they struggle to meet that expectation, you know, restarting them on the route again.
Is there anything that's occurred, I think, in your headship experience so far that would contribute to those comments?
First inset I ran was based on, this is your group of students' average point score, this is what nationally you can expect them to achieve, so this is your target. And the comment coming back from staff was, but we're not the same as other places. This is a tougher place to be. You know, we're not the national average. And having that heated discussion with staff saying, but if we don't set that target for it to have them expecting them to achieve the same as everybody else can achieve, they're never going to.
On the one hand, I think you've said about being there for people, which I guess is sort of the focus of that is that therefore being a compassionate person, being a person that cares for other people. But your example that you gave was actually about being quite tough. It's about actually saying this is the right thing to do to help young people learn.
Once you're clear about your leadership style, Mark is convinced you're in a stronger position to work on your long-term aspirations for your school, which will ultimately lead to your school development plan.
The biggest problem I've got, Mark, I guess, is that I don't value bits of paper for bits of paper's sake, but I'm aware both from an Ofsted point of view and from a school point of view, I need to be planning beyond the next 12 months. I just find it hard to motivate myself to do that when I actually don't see that I struggle to see the purpose of it in the initial term. But where do I start? I guess is the problem.
One of the things I'm very interested in finding out, I think, Vicky, is not so much about your ideas for your school development plan as you've got it now,
Absolutely.
but more about some of the barriers that you perceive.
Yeah, I don't have parents engaged. I don't have. They're not coming into the school for the sake of being in the school to be part of school life.
Mark wants Vic to identify the central ethos that will dictate the long-term vision for his school.
One of the things, now think a year ahead of that, so you're not quite at that 3-year point, so things are in a progressive state. What are the first sorts of changes that you going to see or implement? What's it going to look like?
If I see what the school should be like, that I'll have adults in the central area of the school that are parents coming to see what's going on or be involved in what's going on, because I can be successful with who I've got, but it's who I haven't got that's actually going to make the long-term change for our children. I can have these blue skies and aspirational thoughts, but it comes back to an underlining issue of I've got to break the barriers down between school and community.
So one could legitimately say, within a 3-year plan, greater community cohesion or something along those lines as a kind of an end point. Probably
Mark gets Vic to consider practical steps he can take towards achieving his plans for the future.
What are your thoughts around how you're going to resolve that?
I'm looking at what's needed in that town that the community may actually buy into. So, I mean, discussion about a community library, for instance. Maybe that's something that will just get them through the door. What the long-term development of the school is, I have got a vision for that myself. I think I know it's all about it's raising standards and things like that. But what do they actually feel is the most important thing is vital to have that information.
By your own admission, I think the whole community message is one that needs to be focused on, and I sense is going to be at the very sharp end of everything that you're going to do, and is almost going to be a theme. So I think within any...
Mark encourages Vic to think about how to get staff involved in his aspirations for the school.
This school development plan, although you will lead on it, isn't just your plan.
No.
It belongs to a lot of people. What are your thoughts on terms of how you are going to get others within the school who have a crucial part to play in this plan, getting them together and working on that?
So I've got some senior middle leaders in the school. I've got some ideas of creating a bespoke inset group amongst those, a future leaders group. They're going to feed into the school development plan. And actually need them to do is to listen to be part of the vision stuff, the visionary stuff that we've talked about.
I think some really good points emerging here. All I'm going to ask you to do is when I've gone away, and you're going to give yourself 20 minutes, won't need any more than that, just to sit quietly somewhere, reflect on all we've talked about, and you're just going to jot down between 3 and 5 key action little points like that. Many of the things you've talked about are inspirational. The whole idea of a head teacher is to have that vision, that drive and those goals, because if you don't have it, nobody else is going to have it.
Thanks very much. I promise to get my homework done. I guess I started the session thinking that we would get the school development plan out and actually look at the process and what's there and what's the next thing for that. But Mark's angle, which was to make me think, well, actually, where do you want to be before thinking about how you're going to get there? And it's really important that you don't just think of the now and what's happening, and you think 3 years down the line or 5 years down the line.
What a coaching session should do is introduce new thinking. So the reason why we didn't really look at the school development plan is I wanted to kind of generate some new thinking and some new ideas that then can be fed into the paperwork that he's already got.
It's been a week since Mark and Vic's coaching session. Mark watches footage of how Vic's been progressing.
I have lots of homework anyway, but being set by somebody else instead of by myself is different. I guess there's a little bit more pressure because I've got somebody else who's asked me to do it rather than me doing it for myself. So yeah, it's different.
Vic has organised a meeting with his deputy heads to talk about parental involvement at the school.
I want to talk about where we are with parental engagement currently. So we'll start with that and then talk about where we're going to go with potential year parent council.
Clearly, Vic's not doing this on his own. He's working with key professionals within his school, key members of the leadership team in working up joint solutions.
I mean, I have to say the phrase parent council triggers a far more positive image in my mind than Parents Forum.
In theory, they're great, but if they're too complicated and too daunting, are we actually not have parents involved anyway?
You look at the Student Council,
Yeah.
look at how successful
Well, they know,
that is.
that's the other thing, they know what a student council is. Every school's got a student council.
Well, is that a stepping stone? Is it a stepping stone that you have a joint student-parent council?
I'm particularly liking the fact that the school is thinking differently about how to engage with parents.
It worries me that the school, the Parents Forum, the FOPs, 80% of the people who go to both are the same people.
But isn't there also the possibility that it isn't necessary to always have meetings or activities that they do within the school? Maybe you would take your parent council out to a local community hall.
There's a lot of thinking here about breaking down the barriers to school life, which seems to be ticking the boxes, in my view, as to some of the issues that we talked about in the coaching session.
It's parent council something to pursue.
Yes.
OK, but possibly not in the short term, actually looking at getting some engagement with Year 7 parents first to see what their opinion is.
The key feature here that he's picked up on from the coaching session is the involvement with parents, talking about that in the way that he is with his leadership team is really going to help shape the school development plan and move that plan forward.
Now Mark has viewed the footage, he calls Vic to check up on his progress.
So how are you doing then with getting on since we last met? I've managed to sort of see a bit of footage of things with you working with your team and some of the ideas of the parent council. So run that one by me in terms of how that council is going to work.
Parent council stuff has moved on. Our fast track actually did a presentation in briefing this morning talking about what he wants to do and where he sees the input from parents to come from. So we've got a Year 7 social evening on Thursday and one to try and get the Year 7 parents over the door early without it feeling like it's too precious, so beer and wine basically. But he's going to use that as an opportunity. He's going to put whiteboards around the room for them to write comments on about stuff we're doing well and stuff we're not doing so well. And
I think it sounds a really good idea and I think could work very, very well, be a very, very strong aspect of what's going on.
thanks for all your help, I really appreciate it. That's been really useful and I think certainly there's some of the staff have benefited from that conversation as much as I have, so which is also good.
A key feature when you're trying to create a new school development plan is to get a sense of how the school's going to feel in 3 to 5 years' time. I think a good exercise here is maybe walk the corridors, then take some time just to close your eyes and think what it's going to look like as a new school, how it's going to feel, smell, the whole sense of what that school's going to be like. Another key tip is to know who your stakeholders are, get them involved with the school, get them in, have conversations with them and commit their ideas to the school development plan as well. Don't type anything first off. Have your conversations with stakeholders, with your leadership team, with people within the school and get some idea of where you're going to go before you start committing yourself to paper. I think the coaching's gone very well indeed. What I was able to do was just help him release the potential that was already there.
In talking with Mark, it was very much a sort of a holistic vision, really, rather than anything specific. And that's the biggest part of the problem, was the fact that it felt so huge. So the fact that Mark helped me break it down into smaller steps, helped me see the potential path, it made a daunting task less daunting.